And for our navbar, we would actually need to go all the way to the top to our first section that we created. Because we're not going to be creating a separate section, we're actually going to be putting in a banner section over here, right? So as you can see over here, after I have an ID banner, right? And let's scroll all the way up over here too, right? So we know what we're talking about over here like this. So I'm just going to scroll all the way to the top of the document, right? Because I want to place this navbar over here, right? So you can see that this is going to be my imagined content over here, right? So if I go just underneath the section ID and over here, I'm just going to say this is going to be a comment, right? I'm going to say this is going to be navbar, and right away again I'm going to create, or again I'm just going to copy this one, right? So I'm just going to say end of navbar, right? And then over here I'm going to add code that would be a navbar, right? And we're going to start with a simple element of nav. And over here, we're just going to say class, and we're going to use a Bootstrap classes, right? So we're going to have to write a navbar. I'm going to write navbar inverse over here first, over here like this. And I'm going to say that this is going to be fixed to the top. So it's going to be navbar over here fixed top, right? So now once we're done with that, right, you can see that we have a example of our navbar, right? Now we haven't obviously added anything, but this is going to be our navbar, right? So the next thing we would need to do is add a div, right? And we're going to say that this is going to have a class, and this is going to be a container, right? So over here, we're going to write container. And again, we have options of container fluid, and it's really going to depend. With this container, just going to have a little bit of more paddings to the left and right, right? So with the fluid, it would be really stretched out all across, right? So therefore, I'm using div container. And another div that we're going to be placing right after is going to be a div with a class of navbar header, right? So here we're going to write the class, and I'm going to say navbar, over here header, over here like this, header. And then the first thing what we want to do is actually place in this header, we're going to place a button, right? Over here we're going to say button, and it's going to be type, and it's also going to be type button. And over here we're going to say that this is going to be a class over here of navbar toggle, right? So this is going to be class navbar over here like this, and we're going to say this is going to be toggle, right? Then we're going to say that this is going to be a attribute a data toggle over here like this, toggle. And then we're going to say that this is going to be value of collapse over here. And then we're going to use a attribute of data target over here like this. But we're going to obviously would need to use ID for this one, right? So this is going to be basically we're creating this button, whereas the screen is going to be smaller. We're gonna have a button that actually shows our links, right? That's for the Bootstrap. And over here, I already know that I'm gonna have my ID. I'm gonna say my navbar, right? And over here, what we would want to do before we actually close up the button, right? What we would want to do is we're gonna place over here a font awesome, right? We have a couple of options with the Bootstrap, right? We can use a Bootstrap Glyphicons, but I'm just going to use a font awesome over here. So I'm going to say I, and this is going to have a class, and then we're going to actually use a fa and fa bars, right? So this is going to be the icons that I'm using over here, right? And because I haven't really styled it yet, right? You can see that bars are there. There's just I need to add a little bit more style and a little bit or width and height and everything, right? So therefore you're going to see them much more better, right? So now that we're done with the button, right, we can actually continue. And over here, we're just going to place it all the way on a left side, our navbar brand, right? And in order to do that, over here, we're going to create a link, and we're going to write href over here like this, and we're going to have a hashtag, and I'm going to say class, and over here, we're going to say that this is going to be navbar brand over here like this, and we're just going to close it out, and we're going to say that this is going to be imagine over here like this. And now we can actually go ahead, and we're done with this navbar header, right? So this was our navbar header. And the next thing what we would need to do is actually this collapse menu over here, this one, right? For the my navbar, right? So over here, I'm just going to create a comment, and I'm going to say this is going to be a div collapse over here, content or menu, right? Something like this. And within this div, or I'm sorry, after this comment, right? We would need to create a div. I'm going to give it a class, and this class is going to be a collapse, navbar collapse, right? And this is not, again, something that I came up with. It's obviously the generic Bootstrap classes, right? So navbar, or here collapse, or here like this. And then here we would need to give it ID, right? And this ID is obviously needs to match over here, this one, right? So I'm just going to call it my navbar, or here like this. And then what we would want to do over here, we would want to close out this div, right? And then within this div, we're just going to create over here a let's say unordered list, right? And we're going to give it a class. And again, this is going to be a Bootstrap class, isn't right? Navbar, or here nav, and then we're going to place it to the right side. So we're going to say right navbar, right? And navbar right. Okay. And after that, we would need to start placing a list items, right? And the first list item that I'm actually going to create is going to be a Glyphicon, right? So here I'm going to write li, right? And then I'm writing this is going to be class, and this is going to be a active class, right? And after that, we're going to actually place a href over here like this, link, right? And we're just going to say that this is going to be a over here like this. Or we could just actually call it a banner, right? So this should go all the way to a banner, right? So this is going to be home, and if it's clicked, then it's obviously going to go scroll all the way up to the banner, right? So here we're going to write banner over here like this. And next, what we would want to do is actually create a Glyphicon within this link, right? And the way we do that, over here we write span, right? And we would write class, and over here we would write a Glyphicon, and this is going to be like Font Awesome, but for a Bootstrap, right? And you can find them on a Bootstrap page, the Glyphicons, right? So over here, it's going to be a Glyphicon and home, right? So now if I close my link, right? And if I actually save it over here, and we should just check it out, and see that if we click it over here on this button, right, this is going to be our home, right? This is going to be our home section that leaves the banner, right? Or if we make the screen bigger, right, this is all the way here, right? Because we set our links to the right. And the reason for that, obviously you can see that we have a lot of sections. Now I'm not going to create a link over here in my navbar to every section, right? Because we have like, I don't know, 15 or 16 of them. I really already lost the count a long time ago, right? So we're just going to start with the first one so you have an idea, because I don't believe if you're going to be making something on your own that you're going to have so many of these sections, right? So this is going to be our first section, right? And like I said, if we're starting from the right, it's actually going to be, we're going to be adding more and more links over here, right? So if we go back over here, and we're just going to go to our next list item, right? So we're going to go over here, and we're going to say list item, right? And over here, the first one would be services, right? So we're just going to say this is going to be a, over here, a link, right? And within this over here, like this, href. But the href would obviously would have to be a ID that we created over here, right? So over here, I'm going to write services. Over here, this is going to be a destination for this link, right? So over here, if we write a services, right? Services. Over here like this, now I can see that it's actually going to be going to services, right? So if we click it over here, you can see that we started in the services, right? And the way we check obviously these IDs is we just go back over here and we can see that this is going to be ID of services, right? And after that, what we have is a promise, right? This is going to be our next one. Then we have our skills. Then over here we have a jumbo, right? But I don't think there's a point of creating a link to jumbo. And then it's going to be our work and team and all that, right? So what we would need to do over here is we're going to go over here and we have a services, right? And now I can just copy this link, right? So we just copy this one time. And over here, we're going to say that this is going to be a promise. Over here like this, promise. And over here, we're also going to write promise. So promise over here like this. And again, if we open it up, now I can see that I have two of them, right? If I click it over here, you can see that I met the promise. And after that, what we would want to do is actually create another one, right? So over here, we're just going to copy this one again. And the new one we're going to create is actually going to be for the skills, right? Over here like this, skills. And over here, we're also going to write skills. Skills over here like this. Then we're going to have work, right? So again, we're going to copy this one, and we're going to say that this is going to be a work. And over here, this one is going to be work. Over here like this. Then we're going to say that the next one is going to be a team. All right, so over here, this is going to be team. Team. And over here is the same thing. This is going to be team. All right, and after that, we're going to create a numbers, pricing, quotes, clients, and actually contact. All right, so over here, what we would want to do over here, we're going to create another one, right? So after team, this is going to be a numbers, right? Over here like this, we're going to say this is going to be numbers, and over here is going to be the same thing, numbers. And after that, we're going to have a pricing, right? So I'm going to copy this one, and we're going to write this is going to be a pricing over here like this, and over here like this, pricing. And after that, we have quotes and clients, right? And maybe I have missed out some of them, right? But I'm just going to the main ones, right? Again, you're going to be creating your own, so it doesn't really matter. I might skip few the ones, let's say that we had a couple of work sections, right, that repeated ourselves, right, or portfolios, right? So I'm just going to the main sections that we have, right? And pricing, then we have clients and quotes over here, so two more. And then we have a contact us over here, right? So what we would need to do over here, over the pricing, we're going to write this is going to be quotes over here like this. Then we're going to say that this is going to be a clients over here like this. And the last one is going to be a contact us, right? Contact us, right? And this is going to be probably this section, right? So maybe if we want, we can actually change the name over here. Instead of imagine, we can say contact us if we want to, right? Because this was actually our footer, right? And as you can see that I'm actually talking about a different thing. Now this is going to be a contact us. I'm sorry. We have no link to the footer. I mistakenly thought that this is going to be my link over here, but it's not going to be, right? And after we have over here, then we would need to change over here these quotes, right? So we're going to say quotes, and instead of clients, obviously, instead of pricing, we'll have clients. And over here, we're going to say a contact us, right? Or it's going to be contact, right? This is going to be our ID, and this is going to be contact over here, right? And the problem over here, you can see that we have over here this scroll, right? And we're going to fix that with a CSS, right? Because you can see that this is going to be our links. But let's say that you don't want to scroll. We're actually going to create the CSS rule so we can actually avoid that, right? So over here, if we make this one bigger, right? So now you can see how they actually look like, right? So if we start over here, right, all the way on the top, you can see that we have over here this inverse menu. This is going to be from the Bootstrap, right? Now this is what I was talking about, right? That if we have container, right, you can see these paddings over here, right? And they are preset with the Bootstrap, right? Now if you don't like them over here, if we go back to container, we can obviously create this one as a container fluid, right? So if I would write over here fluid, right, you can see how it is stretched out. Now I don't like that. That's why I use container, right? But that's your actually decision what you would want to do. Now that we're done actually of creating with HTML, right? Then we can just maybe check whether this one works, right? So does this go to contact? Does this one go to clients, right? Over here. And the next one we have a numbers, right? This is going to be over here, our numbers. Then we have pricing. Now you can see that the problem is going to be with this menu right now. It's blocking, right? So what we would need to do obviously is make it bigger screen, right? And then whatever we click it, right? This is going to be pricing. This is going to be quotes, clients, right? If we're working on a smaller screen, right, it would be problematic over here that this would be the blocking the view, right? Now let's go to main CSS and let's actually style a navbar.